The Q&A is usually the better part.
That's true.
Well,
whatever you like, whatever format.
Great. Well, my name is Cheye Calvo. I'm the mayor of the town of Berwyn Heights, Maryland, which is just a stone's throw from the University of Maryland campus. Do you want to introduce yourself before?
No, go ahead. I'll introduce myself.
Cool. Well, it's nice to speak to you all tonight. I'm guessing most of the people here are members of
SSDP. There you go, you got it.
I will just note, I last summer after the incident at my house, I guess I'll talk about it a little more in a minute. It was nice how the chapter organized, and there was a separate vigil, but it was actually a run of email exchanges between me and some members of my community that there was some interest in not just attending a community rally vigil that was at my house, or not at my house, in my community the following Sunday. So it was obviously a time of very frayed nerves and difficulty for all of us. But people wanted to pass out stuff and make it a little more political. And I think there was some pushback from the community, which said, "This is a community event, and you're welcome to come, but it's not the time to be political. It's really meant to be supportive." And at the time, my family and I were parties of interest in a anti-narcotics case, and so we were. It was a difficult time, obviously, for all of us, and I will always appreciate the sensitivity that the group gave to the community, to my family and I, knowing when it's a time to kind of raise broader public policy issues, and that, which I said that night. There are times for that, and those times certainly came not too long after, but that wasn't the event. So I do appreciate, for those of you who were there, I do appreciate that. Actually, we still have the Frisbees and some other items that were brought by the chapter. So, and on behalf of my family and we will always appreciate that. Well, a little more of the story. Last summer, actually tomorrow will be 9 months, July 29th, 2008, my family and I were victimized by a Prince George's County SWAT team. I'm not going to repeat the details of the incident, which has been fairly well reported, but in essence, a Prince George's County SWAT team, without a proper warrant, kicked through our door, shot and killed our two black Labrador retrievers, Peyton and Chase, and bound and interrogated my mother-in-law and I for about 2 hours of what was a total of about 4-hour ordeal. In the end, they did not connect us in any way whatsoever to a box of marijuana that they'd been tracking from Arizona. And in fact, a few days later, arrested a FedEx delivery man and an accomplice for basically using my wife's name, which was on the box, and our address as part of a larger drug trafficking scheme where the FedEx driver would give them a name. The box would be delivered to our front porch because we weren't home during the day, and he apparently had delivered other things to us. We don't know his name, but that's what we deduced. And the accomplice would come, pick it up, take it away. This happened not just to us, it happened to about 5 other individuals, we assume in Prince George's County. Those boxes were recovered at wherever they recovered the drugs, they recovered those. The difference in our case is that our box was intercepted by police and led to a series of events that led them kicking in our door. The details of our case can be a long discussion, and it's more of a legal discussion about the Fourth Amendment, due process, good police work, or the lack thereof, and we could get into the details of that. It's almost an exercise in how to botch a police investigation almost on every level. But really, that's not what I want to talk about tonight. I think I spoke to the national conference back in the fall and told the story a little more in detail. What I want to talk about is the broader issue of SWAT team deployments and implications, and something that I certainly learned a lot from Radley and have come to understand a lot more, but from a very personal level. Because, I remember, it's surreal as it is, I remember with remarkable distinction being bound, kneeling on my own floor in my living room in my boxer shorts, because I was changing to get to a community meeting when it happened, at gunpoint, and thinking to myself that this was a terrible, terrible mistake. It didn't make sense, it didn't compute, but it had to be a terrible, terrible mistake. But in the intervening months, I've come to understand that it's not an isolated, botched raid. It's actually part of a larger, troubling, and seemingly growing trend in which police are using SWAT teams to do duties that were once performed by ordinary police officers. And you can put that in terms of numbers. The first several months of my effort was to try to find out how often does this happen. Generally, and I was able to rely on studies nationally done. I think Radley has probably done the best one out there, at least the one that I've seen. They talk about the national trends. But I went there locally, in Maryland, in Prince George's County specifically. And I was astonished in early September to learn that Prince George's County in 2007 deployed SWAT teams about 700 times. That's twice a day. And that's just the Prince George's County Police. That doesn't include Greenbelt Police or Hyattsville Police or the Sheriff's Department, which was actually the SWAT team that came to my door. I was dumbfounded by that. I mean, I sort of had wild guesses. I never would have come to 700 times a year. And as I've learned more, it is other counties in the state of Maryland also have their deployments that can measure in the hundreds. Prince George's County is an outlier in a fairly extreme case, and I think that's clear. In 2008, they later told the Washington Post that they deployed SWAT teams 400 times alone for drug warrants. And they pretty much indiscriminately deploy a SWAT team where drugs are involved, whether it be an ounce, a gram of marijuana, or a meth lab. That's how they operate. They basically acknowledge that, and they defend it, which is interesting. I think Baltimore County, which what I understand is actually one of the better practitioners as far as how they deploy SWATs. They seem to have fewer mistakes. I think 146 times last year. And smaller counties, it goes down from them. Howard County seems to be an outlier. That for a small county, they were over 100 times as well. And as I looked into this and really tried to think about it through, and I'm trying to cite Radley as much as possible. I hope I don't steal much of his thunder. But the idea of a SWAT team is just fundamentally different than ordinary police work. It is, ordinary police are about due process. They're about protecting the rights of individuals. And if you really think about what police do, at least in what they're supposed to be doing, is they put themselves in between innocent civilians and harm's way. That's their job. They insert themselves between the crime and the people that they are supposed to protect. They are there to protect and serve. SWAT teams are very different. They are paramilitary operations. You get the military training, the military equipment. I think most importantly, the military culture and values which they take to heart, and it affects how they do their job. I mean, they're there to seek out, overpower, and if necessary, destroy. Meaning that the destruction, any police officer, if threatened, can discharge a firearm and kill. That's part of what they do, but it's almost a default for a SWAT team. They don't sit around asking questions. I assure you, I was not asked questions by the SWAT team directly.